I heard there's going to be a vaccine over here in the virtual reality, so we will be okay.
Yeah, there's
Working
word
on
that
it.
they're going to start vaccinating with a really rusty old needle tomorrow. I don't know if there's any truth in that, though. I think that might have been drink talking.
Dr. Malloy in surgery, stat. Dr. Marcus, please report to pharmacy. Dr. Marcus. Dr. Simmons, you have an emergency call on the 3rd floor.
Hello, is this where I come for the COVID-19 inoculation? It's rather a dingy place, I must say. It reminds me of a hospital I went to in Greece a long time ago.
I must say we have not done a lot of testing with this.
Whoops.
But
There it is.
oh, I think you're our first test subject, so I don't know how you feel about getting this right now, but you know, don't worry about it. You know
I'm
what?
not that happy about it, but I've had so many inoculations in my life. I used to carry around a little yellow book, and it ended up being about 2 inches thick, because every new inoculation they gave me another little book, and you know, there was yellow fever and cholera. You know, just the list went on. It's, you know, I was actually used to getting shots with syringes like this filled with who knows what. So yes, you know, I'm a little concerned about getting this shot, but you know, given the number of people that are dying of COVID-19 and, you know, given other circumstances, I think getting the shot is the wise thing to do. So I'm ready. I'm going to roll up my sleeve and...
Before I give this to you, I need you to know that you are the first test that we're going to be doing on this. So... just
oh, great.
I know we look like an amazing establishment here, but this was all the budget would provide us with as far as a place. And we appreciate you. We're going to check back with you on a regular basis. We want to know how this is going to work out for you. You know, I know you probably... You look very confident, and you know, with you know, considering you've gotten all these inoculations, this one should be fine as well. You know, I think that
it'll just be another one. I mean, it's just I've learned how to, you know, relax one's body, relax one's muscles, and just take that needle. The more tense one is, the more it hurts. It's just
now
a matter of relaxing and letting go.
I think since we can't see your arms, I think we should administer this one in your neck or shoulder. How do you feel about that?
Well, that would be medically dangerous to administer it in one's neck. So, how about, gosh, we could pretend here, my thigh. How about my upper thigh on my butt here? You know, I'm not sure if that's a recommendation for COVID, because that's intramuscular, but okay. So
how about in your hand? How about your hand?
Okay,
how about we do your hand?
Okay.
We do your hand.
This is a special virtual COVID hand injection. Okay.
Yes, there you go.
Oh, man, get it over with, quick, come on, oh, man,
you did great, you did great.
Are you sure one's supposed to give an injection in one's hand? Never had an injection in one's hand, but well. You know, everything happens in this hospital, I imagine. I like the modern art you have up here. That's
Oh yeah,
it's pretty cool. But
it is.
you
It
know,
looks.
the place needs some
yeah.
work. It's
Well, that's the vaccine right there. That's what we just put in you right there. It's gonna serve
I
you
hope
well.
Good. I hope you got the vaccine and not the virus, right?
Well, they do. They put a it's a little bit of a dead virus that they put in there. Exactly.
Right. Well, okay. Thank you. I really appreciate that. And
I don't know if it was supposed to do that on itself right there as I set it down.
well, you know, everything happens in VR world, and you know, this is VIDEOGASM, a VIDEOGASM production, and
Yes.
you know, we'll be. Hopefully, other people will be lining up for their vaccinations later on, and everyone benefits.
Amen.
Because, you know, it's something to do, and hopefully this isn't going to come back to haunt us and people develop all kinds of strange conditions in a year's time. But, you know, you've got to take the chances. And as I say, I've been, you know, vaccinated, you know, so many times in my life, and nothing has gone wrong. And, you know, got to take a chance, and you know, rather than die of COVID-19.
I mean, I don't know where you're supposed to stick it, but if you don't mind, I'd like if you'd stick it in my ass. Yeah, he's already turned around.
Strawberries. So how do you feel about, you know,
Well,
what
Dr.
convinced
McLove
you?
Shot, I need you to give me the shot right in my ass, Dr. McLove Shot.
Oh, goodness. Are you sure that's where you want it? You know, if you had anywhere to choose, I mean, okay, you may feel this. It is quite a point and needle here. Are you ready for it? I didn't even get you yet.
Oh, damn it.
Oh, there
Oh
you
my
backed
God.
into it. Oh my gosh. You totally backed up into it.
That was the best vaccination yet.
Vaccinate me again. Vaccinate me again.
So how do you feel about being vaccinated in VR?
I feel something.
Yeah? Do you feel
Strawberry.
I feel a little contaminated in this hospital.
Strawberry, but like you gotta know this. I don't think you're quite understanding the relevance and the importance of this, but you've just become the first person in VR history or in the world to be vaccinated in a VR space. You are now going down in history. Not only has mystery become.
That's John. John got it first. He's the second.
Oh, John got it. No way, man.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay, sorry to burst
I
your bubble.
apologize. I didn't mean to burst your
And
bubble.
he's still
that you were.
alive.
He is.
You know what? You're the
He
second
is.
person.
Oh,
That's
that's
pretty cool. Are people queuing up now?
Please report to pharmacy, Dr. Marcus. Dr. Simmons, you have an emergency call on the 3rd floor. Dr. Simmons.
Then it went to the bone.
Hey, you know what though? Thank you for doing that for me.
You're welcome.
Let's hug it out. Can we hug it out?
Yeah, good. I hope it serves you well. I hope that
Thanks,
chat
man. I
does well
appreciate
for
it.
you. You're welcome.
I appreciate it, buddy. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I feel like I'm ready to take on the world now. I feel energized.
This is. I'm going to do a self-vaccination as well here because.
Vaccine? I thought this was a mental hospital.
You sure? Okay. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Speechless.
It scared the living heck out of me.
This is the COVID-19 vaccine in VR. You don't want to take this? Is it because you don't feel our place is sanitary enough for your standards?
I don't think it's sanitary enough for anyone's standards, but yes.
Well, I just got a vaccine shot, and that they have to give you dead vaccine, like dead stuff.
Nice.
Oh,
I already got you.
Oh, you know what?
I got you where you weren't looking.
Well, my insurance won't pay for this.
Because your shirt has the same color as the virus, so you kind of were coming in here mentally prepared to take the virus, even the vaccine, even though you didn't realize that. Well,
I'm gonna swallow it. Ah.
Oh goodness. That you're the first one to swallow the vaccine, I will say, John. I believe she's the first one to swallow the vaccine.
Prejudice colliding. So when we're isolated, we're lonely. And when we're lonely, we want to join together around something. And when we're scared, lonely, and want to join together, then we need to create an other out of something. And the most easy target for other is the big other around us. It's the other that is organized. So government, organizations, that becomes the villain, the bad guy, the other that we need to protect ourselves from. And if I can make that other the bad guy, then I can try to make a plan to feel safe from the other. But now the other is coming at me with a needle and saying, you need this and I'm going to save your life. And most people have not had a relationship, in fact, probably the opposite, from very young, where children aren't giving their consent to be vaccinated. So one of the first experiences we might have in life is feeling violated by the other, and everybody just saying, that's okay, it's good later. But we don't make any meaning out of that. So this is very deeply wired inside of us to be suspicious and be fearful of the other.
Okay, so I understand that and I appreciate that and I hear what you're saying. What I don't understand about that is that, yeah, there is this suspicion of government. There is this, you know, there is this socially media driven distrust in government, but the distrust in the medical world, in science, in doctors, for instance, I don't think has been as prevalent as it is now with COVID-19. Like, we always trusted our doctors, we always trusted our scientists. Okay, there's an element of, you know, global warming, environmental science that people are going, oh, you know, it's just quack science or whatever. But what really disappoints me about the whole thing is that, you know, people who we once trusted, where lots of people didn't trust government, they but now we don't trust science, now we don't trust medics, now we don't trust people who we've sent to college to study these things. This is what's really amazing to me.
Yeah, and I would say in my heart, I feel disappointment and sadness also. In my experience and my understanding of how our brains work and how we respond when we feel helpless, how this reaction is carrying out does not surprise me at all. When we're in fear mind, we go from peripheral vision, where I'm taking in everybody in the room, to tunnel vision.
Okay.
And if you are a doctor and you're showing up on TV, or I'm hearing you on the radio or whatever, and you look fearful and you are the expert, your nonverbals of that fear are going to be much louder to me in my subconsciousness than any verbals you're going to say. And then when we have doctors in media who are arguing with each other or who are being fired by the United States president because they're not agreeing with him for telling us to all drink Clorox, now we have chaos. And again, if our brain is shut down, science and medicine represents complexity and it represents analysis. And that all requires higher level thinking that takes years and years of practice and discipline and ritual. And when we're in fear mind, that's the last thing we want to be doing. All we just want is to be safe. And if I can villainize a doctor and say, you're suspicious, I don't trust you, then I can close my door and feel like I'm protected and safe. And I'm being told to close my door and feel protected and safe. So now you're asking me to unclose my door and go out into these untrustworthy hospital looking settings and get a needle put in me with a liquid that I don't know the science around. And so cumulatively, this is the toughest setup to ask crowds of people to trust something that is the item that we've been waiting for, but also we never built that trust in the beginning for moments
In the
like
first
this.
place.
None of us have gone through this. And so
Okay.
it feels even more scary to say, okay, I'm going to get an unknown liquid in, and then I'm going to hope that it doesn't affect me poorly. But really, do we know if it will? And that
Okay.
is some of the misinformation out there.
Okay, I'm going to ask you one more question, and I'm going to open it
Yeah.
up to the crowd who obviously have questions as well. Let me just ask you one more question, which isn't specifically COVID vaccine related, but it's more related to the response of certain countries and certain continents relative to other continents. So a friend of mine's mother was in with me today, and I asked her how her son was getting on in Australia. And yesterday he was going to a party with 55 people, and today or tomorrow he's going to a horse racing event with 40,000 people, all in a stadium, not really wearing masks, because the level of COVID-19 in Australia, in certain areas like Melbourne, has been contained into to such a level that people are able to go out, they're able to socialize, they're able to do. Whereas in Ireland, particularly where I live in the UK, we're now on what's called a level 5 lockdown, which is which basically means you can't visit your elderly parents, you can't go to school, all non-essential shops are closed. Obviously in America and the US, those things have happened as well. So what have we got so wrong that Australia and New Zealand have got so right?
That's interesting. You know, I would say I feel cautious about giving an opinion on that, because at the global level, it starts to become stereotypes and
But it's only an opinion.
racial
It's only an
assumptions.
opinion, and it doesn't rate you. You know, we've all got opinions. So if you would be okay to give an opinion, it's just that, not a medical.
Okay.
You know, you're a personal opinion.
Yeah, my personal idea there would be that we have collective societies that train each other to value the group over the individual. And we have individualistic societies that train the individuals that the collective is suspicious or secondary. And the countries that you're mentioning might have more fragmented systems around a balance of collectivism and individuality.
Okay.
And versus, in my impression of New Zealand, for example, it is way more of a joined society where there's a camaraderie of we're all on the same team, let's work together, and a lot more trust in the government system to manage them.
Okay. Okay, that's in a
my
nutshell.
impression.
I appreciate that, and thanks for your input.
You're coping.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's one way. Just feeling healthy, getting more sleep and more exercise and stuff, and trying to improve my diet has made me feel a little better about the thing in general. That's true. It's a coping mechanism. Sure.
Yeah.
Cool.
Right.
Keeping in touch with my friends more too has been really great.
Right. Yeah. To combat that social isolation, there's definitely a correlation between we get sicker when we're less connected to our village. So, yeah.
Do you expect that there will be like a fallout from vaccination, like similar to I think it was the rubella, I'm not sure, but the vaccination, the one that the Bill Gates conspiracy theory, tinfoil hat wearing brigade mentioned in Africa, where a number of younger girls ended up with conditions that were certainly not part of the vaccination protocol. And actually some word has filtered through that some people who have taken the COVID-19 vaccination have ended up with Bell's palsy, a condition that has affected a very small minority of people. I mean, for me, again, I think that, you're going to have people who react in different ways to this, and the percentages are so small. But that's the thing that the tinfoil hat brigade tend to latch on to in terms of, oh, this is fucking, the end of the world. Someone's got Bell's palsy, or someone's had rubella, or someone has had... Obviously, every person is going to react differently to a vaccination.
Yeah. John, do you have anything on that?
I'm a little disappointed, I guess, in terms of the number of people before COVID-19 even happened that were reluctant to get vaccinations. And, I've been vaccinated pretty much for everything under the sun. I used to carry around a vaccination book or booklets that were stapled together and stapled together and stapled together. So they ended up being about an inch thick for, things like yellow fever, cholera, et cetera, et cetera. And so, to me, vaccines are just a way of life. And I appreciate the fact that they're available, because there are so many diseases that we've almost or have eradicated as a result of vaccines.
Yeah. And when you say that, what I appreciate about it is that you are pretty well traveled, and a lot of people aren't. And so if you are putting a needle with a syringe that may or may not give me some flu symptoms, most likely, between me and getting somewhere really cool, I'm going to be way more likely to get that vaccine and not argue with it, and just have some achy arm and downtime and get into that habit, because that's a requirement to cross the borders. But for a lot of people who haven't traveled, it's not a way of life. It feels like an invasion. They have never processed it. And so when you say that, I think about, like, if Ruth was waving a magic wand, reversing us 20 years, 30 years, and somehow had the ability to influence our culture at a pretty high level throughout many countries, I would have invited, or I would invite that there become a ritual, like an International Vaccine Day or something, that becomes this party day. It's a nationally observed holiday. Everybody gets it off. Stories and rhythms out of that create meaning, create community, create incentives. And I know, at least in the US, I've never seen anything like that. But I think that could build a different kind of feedback loop inside of us, where it would be a sense, if I had grown up as a child, and by the way, side note, my parents did not vaccinate me, and I was never even allowed into that conversation. And so when I became an adult and was allowed into that conversation, I felt I'm estranged from my family, including my parents, and I felt so irritated and frustrated with that assumption in me that I was going to be like, thank you for not vaccinating me, that I even
But hang on, Ruth. Like, surely you wouldn't be allowed into that vaccination. Surely you wouldn't be allowed. Sorry, I'm just playing devil's advocate a little here.
No.
But surely you wouldn't be allowed into that conversation as a minor.
I would say it more like, this was my argument with some of the conversations recorded that I did engage in, is consider the additional angle that your children might not forgive you for keeping them from participating in the group culture benefits.
Yeah, that's so far far advanced from like how many parents are thinking about
It
what
is.
their child's going to think in adult life about whether or not the decisions they made for them as a child. No, I understand what you're saying, but I just think that's really far removed from the reality of most parents thinking
I agree.
in terms of vaccinations.
And back to your question of, do you think there's going to be a fallout around this vaccine where we're not going to get that herd immunity kind of piece? Absolutely. Everything coming to this vaccine is setting us up to not be successful at this, or that the success is going to take years instead of months, even though it will be available, that people will not want to engage in that. The virus might mutate. It's going to continue to do its ripples, because what we have not woken up to yet as human beings is the value that we can place in our collective service versus our individualistic goals or attachments or needs. And it goes way beyond my village. It goes into the idea of my responsibility on this planet to do less harm than good over time. And many people have never had to have that conversation, or had been surviving their whole life to the point where they've never tried or been able to. So COVID is an incredible challenger for our species to wake up to something deeper and more valuable than our individual lives.
There could be a tremendous amount of people who are like, oh, thank God they didn't vaccinate me, afraid on both sides. Like any good debate, there are going to be all kinds of ridiculous reasons that people are doing what they're doing. The side that they're on, they're choosing the side that they're on.
And
I'm pro-vaccination, but I do recognize what you're saying. You're about how if people, the system in general is set up so that people are likely to not end up taking their full regimen or taking their second dose, or people are likely just to not be in a position to get the vaccine where they are, or they'll have to compromise their own personal space, their own sense of security, and go through some strange process. It is very intense, and I think that to convince the world that we should all go out and get this specific vaccine is gonna require a lot more information. We're gonna need more information about what it's doing.
That we're gonna need leaders and influencers to step up first and say, me first. And so with that in mind, even though I do have questions about the sterility of this hospital, sorry, but I do. I will accept this symbolic vaccine as a gesture of me first.
Dr. Malloy in surgery, STET.